Welcome back to another Trade Alts technical analysis, and in this video I am going to be going over my macro Bitcoin analysis, talking about some targets that I am keeping in the back of my mind for later this year, potentially next year. But again, these are high time frame targets. Keep that in mind throughout the course of the video, and then towards the end I will be going over more immediate Bitcoin price action and talking about some important levels that I think we need to be aware of. So let's get to the charts. So it's been a couple of days since my last video, and one crazy thing that happened, I have no idea, but my last video ended up playing over somebody else's video when they were trying to live stream or something. I don't know. I got some alerts when I was at dinner the other day, but hopefully that person got their account figured out, and I definitely went to make sure that my account was secure as well. But anyway, that's kind of why I haven't been active the last couple of days, because I wanted to make sure that everything on my end was as secure as it could be. That being said, so this is the logarithmic growth curve for Bitcoin, and this is the BLX chart. It has the longest price action history chart that I'm aware of anyway when it comes to doing analysis on Bitcoin. So I like to kind of default to this chart when I'm doing high time frame analysis, which is exactly what this is going to be. So this is the logarithmic growth curve, and it has called just about every top and bottom in Bitcoin history. It's done a really nice job. So if you can zoom in here, and this is your 2011 top. You can see it hit right to the top of the curve, hit the bottom of your curve in 2011, end of 2011. Really nice kind of sideways accumulation. I mean, this isn't really sideways. It looks that way because it's on log scale, but it basically rides the bottom of this growth curve, and you can see like it respects these lines pretty well. And then you get your rise up, kind of hangs out in the middle of the growth curve before you hit the top again here in 2013. So this is late 2013. As you move along, so this is again your top in 2013, comes all the way back down to the bottom of the growth curve, catches it very nicely. And again, you kind of had this ascending accumulation phase, nice, slow, steady grind up, which again, this is on log scale. So it looks this way, but really the price action was it's a bit crazier than this, but still. Anyways, you have this nice kind of upwards accumulation before you get your $20,000 top in 2017. So this was a really crazy run up. And then you get your nice retracement back perfectly to the middle of the channel. It gives you your nice bounce. And you can see you bounce on the middle of this channel right here a few times. So I really like how this was respected quite nicely. Then you end up losing, basically back testing it before what? Coming down to the very bottom of the logarithmic growth curve. Again, a nice upwards kind of accumulation before you spike up. Find your resistance at the middle of the growth curve for another move back down to the bottom. And then this price action. So this is kind of, if you go back, with the exception of like the very, very beginning, but overall, like this has done a phenomenal job keeping price, having price stay within it. Now, fast forward. So this is March 2020. Well, what happened March 2020? That's your coronavirus dump. So this is kind of one of those rare events that took place, and price lost the logarithmic growth curve. And, this was a pretty scary time for everybody who was trading in these markets. Obviously, there was a lot of crazy opportunity at the end of the day, but you have your deviation from this overall structure, and price manages to get back in, and look what happens, right? Another move to the upside. So again, you zoom out, you can see very clearly this has done a phenomenal job catching the lows, the highs, the lows, the highs, the lows, the midpoint. Coronavirus happened, but yet price manages to make its way back in, and here we are again, another rise up. So as far as this goes, this is definitely one of those indicators that I am keeping an eye on as far as, you know, monitoring price on a very high time frame. So I do not look at this chart every day. This is one of those charts that, you know, I'll take a look at once every few weeks. So it's about that time again. And this is just something that I like to keep in the back of my mind. So again, here's your top, and here's your top, right? So how can this help us kind of predict where future, you know, how can this help us predict future price essentially? And so what I did was I basically went to the end of the year. So you can see the vertical line here. So this is December 27th. So this is the last week of December of this year, 2021. And then I did the end of year 2022, just to give you an idea where these dates kind of cross, right? Like just to give you an idea of where price could be in the future. And you can see as price moves forward, as time moves forward, the growth curve, is ascending, right? So you can see that as the longer it takes for Bitcoin to hit the top of the growth curve, which I do expect it to happen at some point, and expect is kind of a bad word to use, but I do think it's likely to happen again, right? You have kind of this trend. You have this trend of this happening. So you have 1, 2, 3 touches on the top. That makes a trend. And obviously the bottom has caught price incredibly well. So anytime price is at the bottom of the growth curve, essentially it's historically it's a really good opportunity to find a position. And obviously, like, you know, the coronavirus dump ended up being a hell of an opportunity, but try, like, you know, when you're thinking that to yourself in a time like this, it's a little bit different, right? It's kind of like everybody, like, this was kind of a time of really uncertainty and panic. There was a lot going on, but again, ended up being a hell of an opportunity to get into Bitcoin if you did. So again, 3 touches, that's a trend. Do I think it happens a 4th time? I really do think it will happen a 4th time. The question is when. And now when that does happen eventually, which again, I think it will, this is going to help you determine, like, you know, essentially, is this a good place to sell, a good place to take profit? And again, a lot of people are Bitcoin hodlers. They're going to hold forever. But for the traders out there, like, realistically, looking historically at this particular indicator here, it's kind of been a really good area to take profit, or at least hedge, right? In order to figure out, you know, at least what your next move is going to be. But at the same time, something that I do want people to understand, and something that, and again, this is my opinion, but this is kind of a different cycle than previous cycles. There's different players in the game, I would argue. You have, you know, obviously institutions are in the game, and a much different scale than they may have been before. Like, there's different players in this game today. And, you know, so naturally, like, things can you know, things that worked in the past might not necessarily work perfectly going forward, but as kind of something to keep, you know, to give you, you know, it's something that could maybe give you a heads up. I think this is one of those indicators that you can keep track of. So if price was to hit, let me zoom in here for you. There we go. It's a little bit better. So if price was to, let's say, this week, which is very, very unlikely that that's actually going to happen, but if price managed this week to hit the top of the logarithmic growth curve, that would put it right at about $100,000. So you can see, and I will put this, I'll put a line here, just so you can see where that is, right? So right here, about the top of the growth curve, look over here, it's just over, it's right about 100K, right? So that's kind of like a really important psychological number. Again, I don't see that happening this week. It's very, 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 very unlikely, but you never know. But anyway, that's kind of where, you know, again, if price hit the top of the curve this week, that's about where it would be. Now, as price moves forward, again, the curve is ascending, right? So it has a positive slope on it. And the longer it takes for Bitcoin to hit the top, the higher price it's going to be when it does hit the top. So let's say that it hits the week of December 27th this year. So this intersection right here, which I will put this just so you can see again, right there, price would be about $147,000. So if we topped out, or if we, in December, end of December, price hits the top of this growth curve, you're looking at $147,000 Bitcoin, which would be pretty awesome. I think a lot of people would be pretty excited about that. But again, as time moves forward, okay, and if you're looking at this metric, and if you're looking at previous price action history, you're expecting it to hit the top of this curve at some point. So this is one of those tools. It's available on TradingView. If you just go to indicators here and type in logarithmic, I have a really hard time saying that, but logarithmic growth curve, it should pop up. Looks like this. Okay. So if you want to put this on your chart, and again, it has to be in log scale for this to populate correctly, because if you click it on, like if you just have it that not on log scale, this is what it looks like. So gotta make sure it's on log scale. And this is, you can monitor this for yourself and keep tabs on it. But that being said, one part of this that I do look at as a really important level is the middle of this growth curve. So I highlighted this line red, and I kind of wish that it stayed red, but I guess it'll only be red for current price action and historical price action. It doesn't make the entire line red. But anyway, you can see this is a pretty important level. So as price made its way up, resistance, rejection, push up, top of the growth curve, come back down, basically perfectly test the middle of the growth curve. Really nice move up, come back down to the middle again, come back up, lose it, back test. This is your 6K. I remember trading this very well. So this is your kind of 6K support here, lost bottom of the growth curve. Where do you come back up to? Literally the perfect touch of the middle of the growth curve. So again, this level is very important historically, and going forward, I do expect like this is kind of how you can use this as well as another level of confluence when it comes to trading kind of lower time frame. If you're looking at daily time frame, you can kind of keep this general area as a reference point, because this is a nice level of support now, right? So since price is above it, you hope that it holds a support. If this is lost, then really you start to look lower. So wherever the middle of this growth curve is, as time moves forward, I would be keeping tabs on that, because again, I think you could have really nice reactions judging off of historical price action. So that is the logarithmic growth curve. So if I turn this off, I'm going to turn on another indicator, another tool that I like to use, I should say, and that is my pitchfork. So again, the pitchfork is also in log scale, and the reason why I use log scale is because it's much easier to view price action when you have incredibly volatile moves. Otherwise, it kind of looks like this, right? Like this is just insane, and it gets a little bit harder to, when you're looking at pulling fibs or doing stuff like that, it gets a little bit harder. But log scale just makes it kind of nice and uniform, a little bit easier when you have really high volatility, really drastic changes in price. Log scale is usually much easier to do your analysis on when you're looking at high time frames. So this is another tool that's been incredibly useful. And basically I will actually switch this to a lower time frame in a second, but how I pulled this, you can see, is it is your December 2018 low around 3K, your swing up to almost $14,000 in June of 2019, and then your swing low again, which is the coronavirus low, March 2020. So it's this pull right here that you can see. Now, as you move forward, going on to a daily time frame, see if I can make this populate a little bit better. So when, essentially once you have your third connecting point here, now you really start monitoring price. And as you come up to this midpoint, right, which is a really important level, you see you got your push through, perfect back test. And here's where it gets really pretty interesting. So you push through the midpoint of your pitchfork, back test it perfectly, really nice move off of it. And where does price find its resistance at? The 618 of the pitchfork. Incredible. Like literally right to the 618 before you get a pretty nasty rejection. And just to show you, like, this doesn't look crazy, but when you actually measure it, so that was a 28% move down, which ultimately ended up actually going a bit lower. So you're looking, again, this was like your 30% pullback that we had. But just off of the rejection from the 618 in the span of 3 days, after your 618 rejection, 28% move down off of that. So you can see like these lines are pretty well respected, right? So this is your 382 line. This is your 0.5. This is your golden pocket, which is why I have this on here. This is 618. This is your 66. And then price pushes past this point, hits your golden pocket, does kind of an upwards consolidation before boom, you get your push up. Now you're pushing towards the top of the pitchfork, right? So this, when price eventually hits the top of this pitchfork, which I think it will, okay, I would think that it's going to be pretty decent resistance. Like this is a level of confluence that I would be really interested in keeping track of to see when price hits the top of this pitchfork, where is it at? Or, you know, as you know, it might look like price is starting to push towards the top of it, then I would start to look at other forms of confluence to see if we can come up with some kind of, you know, kind of like a heavy resistance zone possibly. So now I'm going to try to actually find some forms of confluence. Like this is kind of an exercise that I like to do just to give myself an idea if there is something that is lining up in the future. So there's a few different tools that I like to use, most of them revolving around Fibonacci. And again, so for those of you who have been following me for a bit, right now I'm doing the Trading Bot tutorial. So hopefully I'm going to wrap that up this week. I'd like to kind of wrap up, at least have most of those videos done. It's been very popular and I appreciate everybody watching those. The next module that I'm going to be doing is actually an introduction to Ichimoku trading. And that's, you know, probably going to be, that's going to be a pretty big series, to be honest. So that's one that I'm going to be, that I have been working on and I'm going to start releasing soon. And then the one that I would like to do right after that is likely going to be the Fibonacci module, because I think that's really important. I use it heavily in my trading. So, you know, that's another module that's coming up that if people are really interested in learning technical analysis or they're interested in learning about Ichimoku or Fibonacci, those are things that are going to be coming out really soon. Free videos that people are going to be able to watch. And they are going to be sequenced from I'm going to start from like the very beginner phase, introducing the indicator to you or introducing, you know, the theory to you, and then working our way up from there to more advanced stuff, the deeper we get into the module. So I do have pretty big plans for those. I'm excited for it. But again, I use them heavily in my analysis. So that being said, again, one last look at your pitchfork here. Another tool that I like to use to kind of watch, and again, the midpoint, really important zone for price action. These levels, obviously, like, you know, you can monitor them as well. But really, for me, the midpoint and the edges are really critical. So as price continues to make its way higher, you know, over time, and again, we could definitely have a nice pullback before that happens, but these are kind of the three main areas. So you have your bottom, your midpoint, and your high. Those are kind of the three main ones that I keep tabs on. So I'm going to turn off the pitchfork. Go back to the weekly time frame. I think it's a little easier to look at on this scale. So one thing that I like to do, so this has to do with, I want to turn all those on at the same time. Turn on a few of these at a time for you. So these are trend-based Fibonacci time. Okay, so this shows you when, you know, like events could potentially happen. So for instance, this pull here, and let me turn this on. I'm going to turn on my trend line. That way you can see where I pulled it from. Okay, so this is basically your 2017 swing low. I wouldn't say it's a swing low, but it's basically the start of the very impulsive section of price. So like I'm interested in this. And again, this is log scale. So if I were to turn this off, you can see this is kind of where things got really crazy. That's kind of the start of that. And then your 2017 blow off top here down to your 3,000 low, your 3K low in 2018. So this is this basically fib time that I'm looking at. And some things that I see, you know, I pull fib times from a lot of different spots to see if there's anything that really stands out that looks useful. So you can see the 618 right here. It caught the top of this really big impulsive move. Before this, you kind of had some sideways correction, you know, say you had a bit of a correction, but also, you know, kind of sideways consolidation before you really had your move up to 14,000. But, you know, your 618 did a pretty nice job of catching this. Your one spot extension pretty close to the drop. You know, if you remember this crazy BART action that we were having around this time in 2019, but, you know, relatively close. I wouldn't say too much about it. But your one spot 618, look at this. You literally caught the top of this move before this epic drop, which was coronavirus, by the way. But your one spot 618, very important level when it comes to, again, anything Fibonacci, fib time, your 618, one spot 618, very critical level. And interesting enough, caught the top, very nice move. So this is what I like to see, and this is why it's on my chart. Like, and I can already see, like, this is one of those that I am, like, I just keep in my object tree, kind of my folder over here, and I pull it up from time to time. But it's done a pretty decent job so far. And then, you know, moving on, you know, nothing that's like super perfect or anything, but your 3-spot extension here, this caught your 58,000 high. So I think it's 58.5 on Bybit, but this caught this all-time high very nicely before you had your big pullback, you know, pretty decent sized pullback down to low 40K. And then you had your push above, but again, caught the high pretty nicely before, and it gave you, you know, essentially a warning when it came to, you know, using Fibonacci time that there was likely to have some form of reaction around here, and you definitely got that. So the next date, as far as this pull goes, that is of interest to me really is in August. So it's about, was the beginning of August, your 3-spot 618 fib time coming into play there. So this is something that I keep tabs on. And so this, it doesn't really, like, this is more about time than it is, I mean, let's just say more, this is about time more so than it's about, you know, predicting what direction price is heading. But this is like how you can look to possibly kind of get an edge, possible, you know, again, I say possibly, but this is one of those tools that you can use to look for important dates in the future, essentially, to keep track of. So here's this one. I'll do the same thing. Turn on my trend line, that way you can see where I pulled it from. 2018 low up to your 2019 swing high here, down to your coronavirus lows. And kind of similar stuff. Not a lot of, you know, this one is okay. I'd say, you know, this end of your consolidation here, nice move up, kind of the same thing here. I don't really say like this is, you know, I mean, this is kind of the start of this really impulsive move. It's pretty close, but it's not right on the money. But it is pretty close. It's about a week. I would have liked to see this one on this next red candle right here. You can kind of see it. I would have liked to see it right here. Either way, close enough. But your 1-spot 618 caught your $29,000 low that we just had back in the beginning of the year. So very, like, this is really nice to see, right? So again, decent moves, decent catches, I should say. Your 1-spot 618 did a really nice job catching the bottom of this overall move before a really big move up. Now, coming in a few weeks, so really 2 weeks from now, we're running into this 2-spot Fibonacci time here, April 5th. So this is likely telling you, and this kind of goes with my kind of feeling overall for the market. These kind of big moves have been followed by consolidation, right? So you have your big move up, about a month of consolidation-ish, something like that. Another big move up, some consolidation. So this, you know, your 2-spot extension here on April 5th. Could be a really interesting time. Maybe something happens here, maybe it doesn't. We'll have to kind of see how that goes. Now, going back to a few different things. So one thing I want to see, so I want to look at, so these are fib extensions, okay? So I pulled this fib extension, and again, I should just leave these on, that way you guys can see it. Put my trend line on so you can see exactly where I pulled it from. So again, the same pull as I pulled for fib time that we just went over, right? 2018 low, 2019 swing high, March 2020 coronavirus crash. So you look at these levels and you'll recognize a few of them because they end up being really important. So your one-to-one extension just under 17,000, that was a pretty important level when price was kind of, well, you know, we got the push up through it, but 17K was relatively important level during this short time that we were around it. But this one, so there are two that are really interesting and really like two of the really important fibs. So there's your 1.618. Look at that. It literally caught the perfect top, basically the perfect top of this very large impulsive move. So very nice there. Caught it very nicely right up to the top. So that was obviously really big resistance. You got a really nice pullback. Where'd you get your pullback to? 1.382, very close. 29,654. I think the low was 28.8. Yep, very close though. So I really like the fib interplay here that I've seen so far. So 17K, decent level, you know, that's okay. But really, your 1.618, perfect top right here before you got your pullback to the 1.382. Went a little bit deeper again, but still. And there was really good confluence here that I'll show you later. But there's really good confluence here, and it had to do with your daily Ichimoku. Now, if you go up higher, right? So assuming price continues on its, you know, higher trajectory over time, obviously we could have some pretty nasty pullbacks. We could have a really severe pullback. It definitely could happen. Like if you look back at Bitcoin's previous price action history, there's been some nasty pullbacks, you know, 30-40% pullbacks during these bull runs. So it's totally normal if it happens. It's not the end of the world, but it definitely, you know, definitely scares the hell out of a lot of people, and you know, it should. Like those are pretty nasty pullbacks. But going forward, some areas to watch for using this, you know, and in seeing kind of which fib levels have reacted so far. Your 2-spot extension, 73K. So going forward, if you find, you know, 73K, definitely on my radar. And if I see, you know, and through my other analysis, if I see it lining up with this, I keep this in the back of my mind that there's, you know, this fib extension right here possible. 2-spot 272, 108,000. 2-spot 618, which is a very, very key level because the 1-spot 618 did so well calling this top. If price got to $180,000, like I would put a lot of pretty decent emphasis on this being a really important resistance. And obviously going higher, you can see as the numbers start to get astronomical. So I'm not going to really talk about those yet, but definitely some levels to keep an eye on. All right, so here is a fib retracement. So this is a Fibonacci retracement that I took from the 2017 high, around 20K, down to your $3,100 lows in 2018. And there's a few different reasons why I really like this one. So you can see your golden pocket, incredibly respected. And there was a monthly level there. I'm not going to draw it right now, but it was really crazy confluence with a monthly level. Got a really nice short off of that. But here's your golden pocket, right? So again, bearish retracement, price came right back into your golden pocket before you got a massive move down, right? And again, coronavirus crash, but you got a really, you know, this was a hell of a short if you got into that, which I did. But actually, I think my short was from like 13 13.2 or something. I don't know. But anyway, I cut it kind of early, so I was pretty upset about that. I think I held it. I don't, you know, it was down to like 10, 11,000, something like that. I definitely cut it early. I'd have to go back to my journal, but that was kind of brutal. But anyway, so your golden pocket there, really nice confluence. As you move up, look at your 1.618. Really, you know, and this goes back to the other fib, the fib extension that we pulled here. You can see how well that lined up. So this is Fibonacci confluence, right? So if I turn this other one on, so look at this, your 1.382 and your 1.618. So these two fibs, really nice confluence, right? And if you drag this over, you know, I mean, you can make this like pretty much that's, you know, it's literally these two levels. Really nice, nice level here. Worked out quite nicely. So as you move up, see if anything else lines up. Not really, but so you're, well, here, right? So we were just talking about this. Like I would be keeping 73,000 in the back of my mind. 2-spot fib extension here, and look, your 4.236 lines up perfectly with your 2-spot fib extension. So this is another really good form of confluence. Definitely, I would be keeping this in the back of my mind now. 73K, likely a level to watch. So like another thing that you can do, which I don't know if I'm going to get into it in this video because this video is getting a little long, but one thing that you can do is turn on tools like your pitchfork. Okay, so this 1.618, like, okay, complete accident, but check out how ridiculous this confluence is. Okay, so this is seriously, like, if you've made it to this point in the video, by the way, congratulations. I think you're about to like see something pretty epic, to be fair. Look at your 1.618 fib extension, right? And this green line is just an extension of this blue line. It's just so you can see where price lines up. Now look at this. So here is your 1.618 fib extension. And what does it line up with perfectly? Your 618 of the pitchfork. Incredible. And look at this rejection, right? That is Fibonacci confluence at its best right there. Like, that's incredible. Your 1.618 lined up with your golden pocket of the pitchfork to the like, it's just as good as it gets, right? And you get your wick up right there. Big rejection. Amazing. I am like really happy that I just I just saw that. I could, you know, to be fair, I didn't see it before this. Had I had actually looked at it in this much detail, now I'm not upset because I've been trading Bitcoin pretty well. Like, I've been trading it really well. So not that I've been out of shape about it, but wow, let me tell you, I wish I had seen this. I wish I had noticed this earlier on. You know, obviously like before price came up to here, because I would have been waiting right here at 42K. Unreal though. Like, that is amazing. And again, this is what I call Fibonacci confluence. When you have multiple things pointing to the same level, okay? Something that, like, this is definitely an area to keep an eye on. That's amazing though. So the point is, you can use these tools together, okay? So you have your pitchfork combined with your fib extensions, and you can find zones like this that have really, like, when things line up, you know, when you kind of get your ducks in a row and things are lining up, these are really strong levels to be trading. Definitely. So definitely take note of that though. This is a really nice find. I'm glad I found that. And then you can see, so your 2-spot fib extension, you know, let's say over the next couple of weeks that price manages to push up to around 73,000. So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to actually delete these since you don't really need to see them anymore. But we kind of passed this. It would have to happen like this week or next week, I would say. But let's say hypothetically it did, and you got your push up, your 2-spot fib extension with your 4.236 retracement, okay? Because they're almost identical levels. And then you have the top of your pitchfork here. This would be a phenomenal trade if we got it soon. So like it would have to be within the next couple of weeks. But if it did manage to happen, this could be a very, very nice trade right here, waiting, staring you in the face. So just kind of, again, not financial advice, but could be a very nice trade sitting there. And then obviously, you know, I do want to move on to some lower time frames that we can get some kind of more relevant analysis. But you could turn on your growth curve as well and do the same thing and try to line up some levels. So anyway, that's how I really like to try to find killer entries, killer exits. When you have really good confluence, you have, you know, Fib confluence, you have your other forms of confluence, amazing. And you can use these with pivots. Like I didn't even show you that yet. I mean, if you turn on your pivots, oh man, I'm gonna have to like reset this, huh? Yeah, let me do it real quick for you. I was testing something out. So it's just your standard pivot points. Don't want to see historical pivots, and let's turn this on a monthly. So, and look at that. So like your R2 monthly pivot, pretty close. So this is pretty close to, you know, kind of this zone that we were talking about, right? Turn this on. Whoops. So again, your R2 pivot kind of right in this general zone. That's just another form of confluence. And then obviously you have your other pivots, but that's how you can use, you know, it's just another form of confluence. So now I'm going to move to the daily. So again, before I go, you know, let me turn the pitchfork off. Let me turn all this other stuff off. Let me delete this, turn my pivots, and turn this back on just for a second. So just to recap, this is what I'm going to be monitoring. Really, as price moves along, right, the longer it takes. And like the bottom of the growth curve is at 18K. Do I think price is going to head to 18K? I mean, honestly, unlikely. Very unlikely in my opinion in this stage, but you never know. But again, like the middle of the growth curve, 41K, 40K, something like that. And I will show you in here in just a minute, like this is definitely a relevant level. So keep 40K in the back of your mind as we move on into the rest of the video. But really, I'm looking for the top of the growth curve. When it hits the top of the growth curve, historically, it's been a very nice exit point, take profit point. I'm not saying to take profit, but I would absolutely be paying attention because, you know, again, historically, it's been a very nice place to realize some profits. So let's go down to some lower time frames now. So I spent kind of a lot of time on that. But again, this is really, I think, the second video that I've kind of done some higher time frame analysis on Bitcoin. So I kind of wanted to really dig into it. That way in future videos, I can do, you know, for those of you who are following me, I won't have to spend as much time talking about this indicators, right? I'll just be able to jump in, show you where we're at, show you what I'm looking at, and move forward. So this video, a little bit longer, but I really wanted to explain kind of what I look at when I look at Bitcoin on a higher time frame. So let's go to the daily. So well, let me see. I think I actually have this chart. So this is a weekly time frame. And I'm gonna be using a lot of Ichimoku, obviously. Like that's kind of my bread and butter. I really like to look, you know, when I look at things on a higher time frame, I like to see, I like to start with that just to kind of help give me some levels. Obviously, this is bullish, like it's ridiculously bullish. But one thing that I see right away, price is pretty far away from where Tenkan and Kijun are. Not a massive concern. This is the weekly time frame. You're gonna see crazy things like this, but it's pretty far away. And this is the Bybit chart, by the way. So that's why it doesn't populate like all the way as far as the Ichimoku goes. But this is the Bybit chart. So some key levels that I can see right off the bat. Saying your Tenkan is sitting right at about 38,500, something like that. You also have this really nice level right here. So it's basically sitting right where your Tenkan is. I do look, you know, you can see that the Tenkan and my forecaster here is telling me that it's likely over the next several weeks. So every dot is a week. Okay. So over the next month, 2 months, something like that, the Tenkan should rise pretty aggressively. So that should come up. This should be coming up to kind of meet price. I mean, assuming price consolidates. If price continues going higher, then obviously this is going to keep playing catch up, which is totally fine with me. But some key levels right off the bat are these weekly levels. So your support down at 45K, it's 45,239.5 to be exact. Like this is a very important level. And then to the upside, which obviously I'm like more interested in the upside because I would like for Bitcoin to continue going higher. That's my personal preference, obviously, but you know, I just trade the charts. So you're 58, basically 59K weekly, very important level. And then there's a daily level here at 61,167. Obviously, if price is able to reclaim these, I'd say pretty fair chance that we're likely headed to 70K, like I had shown in the previous chart. I think it was 73K. That's essentially where I would be looking for price to go if we did manage to reclaim these levels. But on a weekly time frame, 45K is kind of your immediate support zone. And then as far as Ichimoku goes, your Tenkan and your Kijun's down all the way here at 33K. So keep that in mind. But we haven't even come close to touching it over this entire, you know, really your Tenkan hasn't even been tested yet since October. So just to give you an idea, right? So let's go down to a 3-day, see what's going on a 3-day. So this is where things will start to get obviously, like the lower time frame we get to, the more relevant it is to current price action, right? So the 3-day chart, what do you see? Your Tenkan lines up perfectly with this weekly level. Like this only tells me even more so that this is a major level. So 45,000, you know, honestly, like Bitcoin looks like we, you know, and I know there's that options expiry going on this week or on Friday that a lot of people are talking about. There's a lot of crazy stuff that can happen. I honestly I don't know if we really would get that deep this week. I mean, anything's possible in crypto, but I really don't think that we get that deep this week, to be fair. But anything can happen. But again, your Tenkan, very nice opportunity. If we were to get this, you can see here back in February, your Tenkan caught that flawlessly. Okay, very nice buy. You go back here in January, Tenkan catching these candles very nicely. So far, your 3-day Tenkan been a really nice buy, but your Kijun hasn't been tested this entire run up yet. So something to think about. It will happen eventually. It's not a question of if, but when this gets tested. I mean, we could go months more without your Kijun being tested, but believe me, it is going to happen at some point. Absolutely, 100%. That's one of the few things in trading that I can guarantee is your Tenkan will, your Kijun will be tested at some point. It is gonna happen. So these are your key levels. And again, one thing that I'm starting to see, which is a little worrisome, as you can see here from the forecaster, right? It looks like your Tenkan is going to start to get really aggressive. It's going to move up really aggressively, but your Kijun is still relatively flat, right? It looks like it might kind of creep up a bit, but it looks relatively flat overall. If you get a really big deviation, that's not usually a good sign. So we'll see what happens. It's definitely something to monitor over the next few weeks. But again, each dot is 3 days. So basically 2 dots, 1 week. I mean, this could take 3 weeks to play out. Could be who knows what could happen. Just quickly check the 2-day. You're almost touching your 2-day Tenkan. Again, look, decent, not as nice as the 3-day. The 3-day Tenkan caught it really nicely, but close enough. Like, again, nice opportunities for the most part. But you can see the distance, right? So what I'm talking about is this. It's kind of like the deviation between your Tenkan and your Kijun, right? So this is kind of starting to form a C-clamp, in my opinion. Like a C-clamp is, it's not a good thing if you're bullish, that is. Typically, like when you get these wide deviations here, this is kind of like an early warning signal that you could get your mean reversion. And where is your 2-day Kijun sitting at? 39K. So pretty close to the 40K that we were talking about a bit earlier, right? So 40K, pretty important level. But you know, this is just kind of something to be monitoring overall as well. But this looks like it's going to stay relatively flat. So, you know, this looks pretty flat. Kijun looks like it start creeping up. We'll have to monitor this. Now, the time frame that most people probably familiar with, the daily, like this is what I think a lot of people check. Really interesting things going on. So again, your daily Kijun lined up really nicely with your weekly, big time level. Historically, you know, I'll say historically, but I mean on this run up, you can see that when your daily Kijun's been tested, very nice buying opportunity. So very similar, I think, to the 3-day, right, that we were looking at, the 3-day Tenkin. Very similar, but really nice opportunities here, here, and here. If I got an opportunity to buy, again, it's sitting around 45,640, something like that. So you basically have this zone, okay? And so what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to try to build up a case for this on why I think this level is, you know, like what makes this level important. And again, just looking at the 3 previous times you hit your daily Kijun, it's been a hell of a buying opportunity. And it's kind of one of those things that in trading, you do it until it doesn't work anymore, right? Like you know, if you see something that works, you do it until it stops working. But this zone right here, so you have your weekly level, which I think is a huge level. You have your daily Kijun sitting in it, and you're very close to kind of the edge of the Kumo, right? The cloud here. So this is a really nice zone of support that I would absolutely be like paying attention to if we did manage to get down into this area. So one thing that I could do right now is pull a fib. So I would be really curious from this swing low to the current all-time high, and look at your, I don't know if you can see this, but your 886 right here. So this is your 886 Fibonacci. Okay, it lines up beautifully with your weekly level. It's kind of hard to see, but it's red right here. It lines up right smack on your weekly level. So another nice form of confluence for me is your 886 lining up there. And obviously, like your golden pocket, I'm always interested in this level. Golden pocket. So just to give you an idea, right? This is sitting around 50K. Right around like mid 49K, low 50K. This would be, you know, definitely be an area of interest for me. So I'm going to leave this on here just for a second, just because I want to see if anything else lines up in this region while I'm already here. But again, you're deep, you know, quite a big gap. There's kind of this, you know, again, kind of a C clamp starting to form. As far as like, it looks like they're both going to continue to trend higher though. Like it's, as long as you have your Kijun and your Tenkin continue moving up, like that could be nice. But a mean reversion here it's looking like it could be a possibility. Okay. So one thing that I do want to do is I kind of want to pull a range. And again, like you have, you know, kind of your move up before you got your big move down, low 40, you know, 43K. Then your all-time high, kind of like, I just want to see where the point of control is really in all of this price action. So start here. It's actually way up here. So your value area low is sitting kind of, it's not really lining up with this very nicely, but what is that? Around low 50K, 51,000. Your point of control. So this is a pretty important resistance at the moment. It's sitting at 56,890. So this red line here, your point of control, I'd say this is really important resistance. You know, if you reclaim this, then you look to your weekly level next. I do like this though, your value area high, which is right here. I'll mark this off for you. It's literally your daily level. Do you see that? So your daily level, value area high, very important resistance. Obviously, like if this is reclaimed, you know, as long as it's not a swing failed pattern, you get a wick through it and then, you know, price closes below. I think likely if we came back up to, you know, 61.5, 62K, something like that, we're probably headed higher. But this is definitely a really big resistance here. So you got a lot of resistance above you. You got your point of control for this entire piece of price action here. You have your weekly level, big resistance. And then you have your daily value area high of the range, very big level as well. So that's interesting. Below you, you have your golden pocket. I don't see anything else lining up with it yet. So let's turn on some pivots, get an idea. Monthly pivots. So again, you can see your monthly pivot here. Now it's resistance, right? Whoa, there's something lining up here. Your actual monthly pivot. You can't really see it. But I don't know if you can see. Let me try to zoom in for you. Whoops. I don't know if you can see, but this is your monthly pivot. So when I highlight the line, you can see, I'll circle it for you. It's right here, the P. See that? When I highlight the line, might have to get your binoculars on. But anyway, your monthly pivot lines up where? Right in with your Kijun and your weekly. So your daily Kijun, your weekly, your monthly pivot, the top of the cloud over here. There's a lot going on right here. Your 886 fib retracement. There is a lot going on in this zone right here. Now, obviously, we're nearing the end of March. So April 1st, we're going to get a new monthly pivot. We'll see what happens. But for the rest of the month, again, your monthly pivot. Like this is a huge, huge, huge zone of support, in my opinion. I would love for, like, I wouldn't have an issue with Bitcoin coming down here. I think it could be a really nice opportunity. So again, I'm going to delete the golden pocket. I haven't seen anything yet. Obviously, I could do a lot more analysis, which I'm not going to because this video went a lot longer than I wanted. But, you know, golden pocket, always something of interest. But really, for a nice potential swing trade, in my opinion, this is looking real nice. Now, something to keep in mind though, and why I like this trade is because I know where I'm wrong pretty quickly. So not only like if you start losing this weekly level, that would be a concern. And I mean, not a wick, like you're legitimately losing this weekly level, you're likely wrong. You have your cloud here. Okay, so if price closes inside of the cloud, that's another warning sign that you're probably wrong on your trade here. Again, wick is fine. If it wicks, price comes down into here, wicks into the cloud, not a big deal, honestly. But you start closing candles inside the cloud, then you likely you're probably wrong on this trade. And you definitely want to be paying attention to what your Tenkan is doing and what price is doing. But if price does come down here though, I think this is a pretty nice area to keep in the back of your mind. That being said, just going to do a real quick wrap up. So I talked about Bitcoin on the high time frames, right? Showed you a couple things, a couple different tools that I'm using to kind of monitor price as we go along. There are things that I check, you know, maybe once a week, every couple of weeks, just to kind of in the back of my mind know where we are in the trend and know where some important levels might be coming up, right? So those are some of the tools that I shared in the beginning of the video. Then we kind of went down from the month or from the weekly time frame down to the 3-day, 2-day, and now the daily, and kind of showed you we're ending the video on some very recent, or I mean like current price action, right? So again, as far as support levels, we had the golden pocket sitting right around 49,500 to 50K, something like that. That's something to watch. I didn't find anything else lining up around there yet, but I also did, I haven't done I would want to go down on lower time frames to see, to kind of check those levels out. But I gave you your resistance zone. This is literally up here. This is it. Okay, your weekly level, 58, almost 59,000. Very important resistance. You had your range point of control sitting, I think it was around 56,800. You might have to go back. That's a very important resistance, and that's pretty local resistance. But really, it's this daily level, which is also the value area high of the range. If you reclaim that, I think we're probably, from earlier in the video, I would be looking to about 73,000 if you ask me. So that's kind of where I would be looking for Bitcoin to potentially move up to if you do reclaim this level. And then obviously to the downside, this weekly level, I keep talking about it, but you have your daily Kijun, been a hell of a buying opportunity in previously here, lining up with this very big weekly level, in my opinion. You have your monthly pivot and you have your cloud, kind of the edge of your cloud here. Really nice confluences in this region. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this lengthy video. Man, if you made it to the end of this video, I'm impressed. Please tell me in the comments. Please, seriously, tell me in the comments if you made it to the end of this video. I'll be very impressed. But anyway, we'll catch you later. Trade safe out there. Have a good night.